Welcome back to the Base Talk podcast. I am your host, Jacob Billingsley, owner and founder of Base Sports Performance in Hernando, Mississippi. In this episode, we are going to be discussing pitchers' routines between games, and as well as how to navigate a 7-day rotation, 5-day rotation, and being a bullpen arm. All right. Welcome back to the podcast. So as I mentioned today, we are going to be discussing pitchers' routines between outings. There's some folks that are on a 7-day rotation, some are on a 5-day rotation. Some of you guys are bullpen arms and you're not really sure when you're going to pitch. So we're going to discuss all of that and how to navigate those timelines. So a couple of things I want to hit to start with. Obviously, this isn't a perfect world, right? So I'm going to give you guys a couple examples of what a perfect schedule looks like. We all know that the perfect schedule never happens because there's rainouts, there's games that get moved, games that get canceled, you're supposed to throw one day and you don't, things like that come up. So understand that as I'm talking here, this is in a perfect world scenario. I am going to give you some idea of how to navigate, when things get adjusted a little bit towards the end, but just understand, I want to make that note that this is in a perfect world. So, I understand that there's obviously case-by-case situations that you have to adjust things. So let's start off with a 7-day rotation. So 7-day rotation is like let's just use a Friday night pitcher at a college. So a lot of these starters in college are on 7-day rotations. And in a perfect world, this is what it looks like, and this is how I like to navigate things. So obviously Friday is our game day, right? So hopefully we're in a good spot. Hopefully we had a good game. We threw however many pitches, things like that. So we're going to be a little sore. We're going to be a little fatigued, following the game. But we know that we have all the way until the next Friday before we have to pitch again in a game. So Saturday is what we're going to consider day one. So Saturday, what that looks like from a throwing perspective and a training perspective. So throwing wise, obviously we want to come in. We want to get our movement routine, our mobility routine, all of the arm care that we normally do. One thing that I do want to press pause on and hit here is I'm not a huge fan of doing a ton of arm care post-game, especially if it's been like a high volume game and you were a starter, you threw 50, 60, 70, maybe even 100 pitches in the game. I would not go and just bang out a ton of arm care and reps like that. What I would do post-game, that night, is I would go and do some static stretching, some mobility drills, start to kind of try to loosen up, the tissue, and obviously nutrition, which is a completely different topic, but something that is going to help you recover, even more so than, Mark Pro and soft tissue routines and needling and things like that. You need to make sure that you're eating, sleeping, that's going to actually help you recover. So make sure that we're not just jamming out a ton of arm care the night of the game. If you want to get 1 or 2 sets of J-bands just to get some blood flow to the area, cool. But don't go do 5, 6, 8 different exercises for 2 to 3 sets that night, because I think we're just filling the bucket with more stress, right? Save that for a couple days later. So day one is going to be Saturday in this case, if you pitched on Friday. So a light catch day. So again, we're just moving the arm. We're getting blood flow back to the area, just nice, easy, light catch. That's going to look different for everyone. For me, that was, between 75 to 100 feet where I'm just, throwing it super nice and easy, just light, maybe anywhere from 30 to 50 total throws. That's not a day that you want to just go and throw for days, and throw 80 to 100 throws. That's kind of a day you want to minimize the volume, throw just enough to get some blood flow to the area. That way, some nutrients can get to the tissues and start to help the recovery process. This is going to be kind of one of our heavier lift days, right? So at this point on this Saturday, we have 6 more days until we pitch again. So this is the day that we really want to hit the weight room hard. Obviously, hopefully we have a strength coach that can kind of help us put this together, but this is really like our higher stress load day in the weight room. Yes, you're a little bit beat down from the day before, but again, this is where we want to kind of go ahead and hit the weight room pretty hard, make sure that we're doing things correctly. And we also, want to mix in a ton of movement and mobility throughout these lifts. So just as an example, let's say that this is kind of like our, our maybe our max strength day. Between those max strength sets, let's just say we're doing like a barbell split squat or something like that. Between those sets, while you're resting until you get to the next one, this is a really good time to add in mobility drills, to add in movement drills, to add in arm care. And that way we're getting our strength work, but we're also getting that movement and mobility work as well at the same time. So that Saturday, obviously you're not going to feel great because you just pitched the day before, but that's a really, really big day to make sure that we are moving again, we are eating, we are hydrating, because that's the day that we want to kickstart that recovery process and get us going. So the next day, day 2, is the Sunday. This is what I call a stretch it out day. So stretch it out really just means the same thing as the day before, but just a little further. So again, in my example, what I would like to do, maybe 100 to 120 feet. And again, everything's really on a line, everything's really on an arc. So I'm playing nice, easy, light catch. I'm throwing rainbows back to my partner. And maybe 1 or 2 at the end, I'm doing just a little, 70, 80% shuffle and throwing a ball on the line right at the very end if I feel good. If I don't feel good and it's not something that I'm excited to do, I'm obviously not going to do, those 1 or 2 pull downs or shuffles at the end. But, this is kind of a stretch it out day where we are throwing a little bit more volume and we're going potentially a little bit more distance. That's in the best case scenario, but we don't want to do, 5 to 8 pull downs, something like that, and put a ton of stress back on it, because we're going to turn around in a couple of days and go bullpen, and that's going to put more stress on it as well. So this is a stretch it out day, nice and easy. Just get the arm moving and, maybe add a little bit more distance and volume on this day 2. Day 3 in college, a lot of the Mondays are off days. So, if it's a mandatory off day, obviously that's going to be an off day, right? We're not going to go in, we're not going to throw. You might do some mobility on your own. You might do some arm care on your own, some static stretching, things like that. That might be a good day for the off day. But for the most part, I am a fan, especially if you're on a 7-day rotation, of taking a no-throw day. So, that Monday is going to be a perfect day for you if you threw on Friday. But if not, just go to, and the timeline would be day 3 here, and that would be our off day from throwing. Day 4 is going to be Tuesday. So this is going to be a good day for a bullpen. Okay, so we just went day 1, which was Saturday, light catch and a lift. Day 2 was Sunday. We went a stretch it out day, some mobility work. Day 3 was Monday. That's an off day. We didn't throw at all. And then day 4 is Tuesday, and that's a really good day for our bullpen, right? So we don't want to go more than 4 to 5 days without touching the mound. So this is a really good day in this case scenario to get on the mound and get that bullpen in. One thing that I made the mistake of in college was my midweek bullpens were way too long. I threw way too many pitches. I was going, sometimes 40, 50, 60 pitches in these midweek bullpens. And that is something I do not recommend, and I wish I would have done differently just to save some bullets, because I think you can get the work that you need to get done in a lot less throws. So the max I would throw in this midweek bullpen is going to be 30 pitches. If I throw 20 pitches and I feel good, I feel like I got a lot of work, I feel like my movement was good, my delivery was good, my off speed was good, there's no need to throw another 10 just to do it, right? If you get everything you want to get done in 20, let's do it. If you need 25 to 30, cool. But I would not go above 30 pitches just in my experience, just because I think, we're adding, again, more stress and more recovery time if we go above that. I think that 25 to 30 pitches is plenty of pitches to be able to work on what you want to work on, get in and get out, and get what we need to do. That's also a really good day to get our second lift in. Okay, so on the bullpen days and the game days, we want to keep those lifts as close to those as possible, because it's already a high stress day. So instead of us, taking 2 more days to do a lift, I would go ahead and try to get it in. So on this bullpen day, which is our day 1, 2, 3, 4, our 4th day, this is also a good day to go ahead and get that second lift. This again is still, we're not going like light. This is still going to be a pretty heavy lift day. And again, we're going to add in some mobility, movement, arm care drills, soft tissue work, things like that during the lift. Day 5 is going to be that Wednesday. So This is going back to another stretch it out day. So if you saw what I did, we went lift and then we went stretch it out. And now we're going, lift on this day 4, bullpen day, and now we're going to go stretch it out the day after on day 5. So again, this is just, we're throwing rainbows to our partner, nice and easy, 100, 120 feet. If you don't feel that good and you don't want to go that far, cool. This is just in my experience and in the perfect world, from a routine standpoint here. Thursday is going to be our day 6 because we pitch again on Friday. So Thursday, I'm just going to do a light catch day. I went bullpen Tuesday. I went stretch it out day Wednesday. Today's Thursday. I'm going to do just a nice, easy light catch again, just to get some blood flow to the area. Nice, easy light catch, and get me ready for game day the next day. This is also going to be a good day. I like to do pre-day game lifts here. So this Thursday, if I'm pitching on a Friday, I'm probably feeling pretty good. My body's probably feeling the best that it's felt all week. This is going to be one of those short, quick lift days where I'm going to go in. I'm going to do a couple power exercises. I'm probably not going to hit, a ton of volume on a lot of stuff. I'm going to hit maybe, 4 to 5 exercises, power work, arm care, mobility, get in, get out, get the body feeling good. That's kind of a lighter lift, but it is the day that you want to go a little bit more speed work, a little bit more power work to get you ready for that game day the next day, which would be Friday. So that's a 7-day rotation. 5-day rotation is next. So pretty much what that's going to look like is pretty similar. But this might be our high school guys. I know a lot of our the professional pitchers are usually on 5-day rotations. So again, this is perfect world scenario, and this is in my experience what I like to do. So again, let's use Thursday as the game day this time. So we pitch on Thursday. Friday is a light catch day. So just like before, we're just doing nice, easy light catch, get the arm moving, get the blood flow back to the area, help recover. We don't want to throw a ton of throws, maybe between 30 to 40, 50 maybe, but probably more than that is a little bit too much the next day. Again, this is going to be our heavy lift day. So we're going to get the lift in. We're going to superset that with some mobility, movement drills, and some arm care. And then the next day, day 2, is going to be our stretch it out day. So, we should be feeling pretty good, should be feeling better, maybe still a little bit sore. But this is the day that we're going to stretch it out with our partner. Again, we're throwing those rainbows for our partner, maybe 100, 120 feet. Again, just to feel, but this is a day that you probably want to go a little bit more on the throwing distance and volume side. Sunday, in this case, is going to be a short bullpen. So instead of going just a bullpen, I like to call this a short bullpen. And all that is just a bullpen with less pitches, right? So max of 20 pitches, because again, you're not going to get those 2 extra days that you would if you were on the 7-day rotation. So in this case, we're hitting a nice, easy bullpen. Our intensity is still up during this bullpen, but the volume is down. So 15, 20 pitches, get what work you want to do, get in and get out, right? Make sure you have a plan for that bullpen and you know what you want to work on. That way you don't get in the middle of it and then decide, oh, I need to work on a breaking ball. Or, oh, I need to work, from the stretch or a slide step. You need to already have that plan pre-bullpen. That way you're going in and you're being efficient and not wasting time in that bullpen. Max of 20 pitches. If you can get, the work done you want in less pitches, great. This is also a good day for our second lift. Again, when we want to get that lift in, we're not killing ourselves in the weight room, but we are going heavy with we're going heavy with low volume. We're going to mix in movement, mobility, soft tissue work, and we're going to get the body feeling good. The next day is day 4, which in this case would be a Monday. So we're going light catch that day. Again, just move the arm, get the blood flow to the area. Should be feeling really, really good to get you ready again for that game day on Tuesday. And then from there, obviously you just run it back again, right? So, if you have a travel day, this is going to be a good day to take as a no-throw day. Sometimes you're forced to take a no-throw day because of these travel days if you're traveling a long way. But either way, on that 5-day rotation, you're probably going to have some forced off days anyway. So I would probably try to stick pretty close to that unless, your body is feeling otherwise. But next one is our bullpen guys. So the bullpen guys, I'm not even going to try to do a perfect world scenario of what that looks like because there's so many different types of bullpen guys. They get used different ways, things like that. So what I will do is kind of just give you some tips. If you're a bullpen guy, these are some things you need to think about. So if you're not pitching as much as you'd like, make sure that we're not going more than 5 days without touching the mound. So just as an example, you pitched, Friday. The next Wednesday, if we still haven't touched the mound by Wednesday, we need to get a little touch and feel in. And what a touch and feel is it's kind of like the light bullpen. You're coming in, but with less volume. You're coming up, you're getting on the mound. You're pretty much just trying to touch it. So all that means is, maybe we go 2 warm-up fastballs. We go 2 or 3 high-intent fastballs where we're up, 90, 95% intensity. And this is, heaters that we're trying to throw pretty hard into the zone. Maybe we spin 2 good breaking balls, we spin 2 good changeups, and we end it again on 2 good fastballs. We're 6 to 8 pitches. We have, hit the power that we need to hit for the day. We've got the arm moving at a high velocity and a high speed. So now we've hit just enough stimulus to where if you pitch again in 2 or 3 more days, you're not going to be crazy sore because your body has hit, a stress level. But if we take this off and we don't go, a touch and feel, and we don't throw until, day 7 again at a high intent, you are going to be really sore. And then you're not going to be able to bounce back as quickly. So tip number 1 for the bullpen guys is don't go more than 5 days without touching the mound. Okay, a couple different scenarios I do want to hit. On the 5th day, if it's a game, so today's day 5, we do have a game. You're expecting to pitch in the game, but something happens and you don't pitch. What I would do is immediately after the game, so as soon as the game ends, while I'm still warm, I'm still hot, I'm still in my uniform, whatever, I have a catcher, I'm going to go get that touch and feel right at the end of the game. So as soon as the game ends, grab a catcher, grab a bullpen catcher, get down there, go through that touch and feel. Again, anywhere from 6 to 10 to 12 pitches at the most. That way, just in case you do pitch the next day, you're still good to go, right? 6 to 10 pitches at a pretty high intent is not going to be enough to make you sore. It's not going to be enough to make you fatigued in case you still have to pitch the next day. But just in case you don't pitch the next day, now we've hit that power stimulus and we're not going longer than the 5 days without hitting the mound. If there's no game on the 5th day, obviously we just want to hit a touch and feel, right? So if you have practice or if it's a travel day, plan that accordingly. You should know your schedule and be able to plan accordingly. But if there's no game and there's a practice, obviously just hit a touch and feel. If there is a game on that 5th day, go ahead and you don't pitch, go ahead and get that touch and feel after the game. All right. Obviously, if the 5th day, you get hot in the bullpen, which means they ask you to warm up because you're potentially coming in, and you don't go in. Don't worry about doing that touch and feel because you just hit however many pitches getting ready to go in, so that would serve as your touch and feel that day. Lifts. So lifts, like workouts for these bullpen guys. Pretty much, again, I'm just going to hit a broad tip here is just don't go more than 3 days in a row without a lift. So again, bullpen guys, you just got to get comfortable with just getting these lifts in. Even if it's on a game day, I actually like lifts on game day because it gets your body going, it gets your central nervous system revved up. Don't go more than 3 days without getting a lift in. Again, hopefully we have a good strength and conditioning coach that can help us put together a quality lift that's not too much volume or too much stress, but we do still want to hit the weight room. We do want to increase our power and our strength in season. We don't want to just maintain, and we don't want to let it diminish. We want to make sure that we are increasing power, strength, mobility, things like that in season. So it needs to still get hit. Don't go more than 3 days between lifts. One thing that I personally like to do, because I was a bullpen arm, especially in pro ball, is that I like to microdose my lifts. Really, all that means is, I would pick 4, maybe even 5 days a week where pre-game, I'm going into the weight room with our strength coach, And we've already had this conversation. I've already said, look, I really like getting in the weight room. I don't want to kill myself, but I do like how it makes me feel. So what we did was we put together little micro-dosed workouts. So, every 3 to 5 days a week, I'm hitting it, right? So we're getting in there. We might have 3 to 4 exercises. Maybe we have a lower body exercise and 1 or 2 upper body exercises and a power exercise. And I'm getting out 20 to 30 minutes that day. And I would do that, 3 to 4 days a week as a bullpen arm. Because again, there's not enough stress in those lifts to make me sore. There's not enough stress in those lifts to make me fatigued to where I can't go out and pitch if I have to pitch that night or if I have to pitch the next day. But I am still hitting my power work. I am still hitting a couple sets of max strength work, and I'm hitting my arm carry and my mobility. So that's something that I highly, highly recommend as a bullpen arm, to microdose those lifts in anywhere from 3 to 5 days a week. And if you select the correct volume, your body's going to be feeling great. You're going to love those lifts. You're going to feel warmed up. You're going to feel like your mobility is good, and our power is going to stay up, which is the main focus. The power is really, really going to help you as you get deeper into the season. So hopefully that helped. We went over a 7-day rotation, 5-day rotation, and a couple tips if you're a bullpen arm. If you have any questions, obviously shoot us a message, shoot us a DM, email, whatever it is. If you found value in this podcast, please feel free to share it. Share it to other guys that are pitchers. If you're a parent, please feel free to share it around. If there's questions that come up, let us know. Otherwise, thanks for listening. We'll catch you in the next one.